welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Dave Dale.
And I'm Scott Clark. Today, we're talking about a few different things, which includes the Trump victory down south of the border. You have to do a slight clarification from our interview last week.
Every week I'm going to do a slight clarification.
And what about our guest this week?
Well, Johanne Brousseau, she's been at every council meeting since 2018 when she was before and after she was elected, and she was a chair of community services, and she ran for mayor, and she lost, but she's been at every meeting since for the last 2 years. Definitely somebody working for the community.
Yeah, I like her, and you'll like what she has to say in all her research when it comes to Sweetman Gardens. That's all coming up in just a sec. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Twigs Coffee Roasters.
North Bay Echo is proud to partner with Twigs Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twigs offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar. Rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twigs has 5 locations to serve you from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order online for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
Coming off the glow of the American election.
Yeah, it's feeling very toasty.
I don't know, for some reason I wasn't overly nervous, and the election results for some reason wasn't overly surprising, and I don't know why. Were you surprised by the results?
No, I wish I was shocked, actually. I didn't see it happen in that way, though.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't seem that way. He seemed to be falling apart in his last week of it. Like, I don't know, people that actually listen to him talk at these gatherings he has. But once he went on Joe Rogan and Kamala Harris didn't, it was done. Anybody sitting on the fence that's I'm sure he won some votes there, for sure. And it got people into it. And the fact that she didn't sort of maybe solidified it with the people that may have been on the bench, I don't know.
I have a couple of friends that won't even discuss it with me. So I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter, but when they won't discuss it is, I started with this. I say, look, it's fascinating to find out 80 million people voted for Trump last election. Aren't you curious to understand why they did? And then you immediately get back, well, they're all crazy. Well, no, they're not. They're not all crazy.
Yeah, they have their reasons.
They have their reasons. Yeah. And leading up to this election, I did, listen to a couple of different podcasts, a couple of different things. There was one out of the New York Times, I think it was, I was listening to, that was absolutely fascinating. And it talked about the NAFTA agreement. Mm-hmm. And this was the one where I went, oh, I think I get it. So you and I are of an age that we remember when Brian Mulroney was in power and Ronald Reagan, and they actually brought in the NAFTA agreement in and around that time.
And Jean Chrétien promised to rip it up, and he didn't.
Yeah. And didn't rip it up. And there was this promise of prosperity across North America with free trade between, not only Canada, but also Mexico as well. And everybody's going to benefit from it. But at the core of it, what took place was there were factories that shut their doors, and Michigan's a great example. They mm-hmm. shut their doors mm-hmm. and they moved to other places, which included Mexico, mainly Mexico. There was a lot. And over the years, even though I think the Democrats were saying for a long time, hey, we're for the working class people. Republicans are only for the billionaires, that sort of thing. Michael Moore did a speech, and Michael Moore, you would think, is quite left-leaning liberal. And I think most people know Michael Moore through Roger and Me and all the different documentaries, including Bowling for Columbine and things like that. he did this speech that I thought was quite powerful. And he talked about how Trump has been the only leader in recent memory that actually stood up and said, if you take your factory out of this country, I am going to tariff the snot out of you. He didn't say snot. And people heard that, because I think those middle-class working people for a long time since NAFTA were promised all these different things, and it never, ever transpired. The only thing that was happening time and time again was unions were being busted, people were losing their careers, they were losing their pensions, and it wasn't coming back again. And for the first time, there was someone in power that said, that's not going to happen. And they believed him. They believed him. Now, the only caveat I would say with that, and I'm not an economics major, I actually sucked at it in high school, was that you keep those factories here, you build more factories, you bring that, that engine back again. You and I would go to the States or whatever, and it's like almost everything's free here. It's so cheap down here. Gas is free. Everything's so much cheaper. It won't be that way if you have to pay all those people great wages and wages due and all of those things. You don't outsource to different countries to get, really cheap products. You're going to pay it. You'll get quality. You'll get all those different things, but you're going to pay for it once it arrives here. That's the long tail of it all. So I think that working class, people that the Democrats owned forever now lost them, because Trump was the first one, I think, in a long time that says, you know what, these factories aren't leaving anymore. They're staying.
Says a guy that uses factories all over the world. Yes, they got hoodwinked. They believed him because they were looking for somebody to believe. My only hope is that he's like all the other politicians, and that he breaks the promises he's made, and he doesn't do the things that he's promised to do. Because if he does, all those same people are going to feel it more than anybody. The tariffs they have to pay those tariffs. The consumer,
exactly,
the middle class,
I agree.
Worker, they pay for everything like that. So if they do this, if they do half the things that he was talking about, he's promising to do, it'll be a detriment to most of the people that voted for him. They just don't realize it. That's my theory. Yeah. And I got friends that called me, of course, after the election. And they were like, oh, you must be crying now. And I said, not just for you. Just for you.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think the point I was making was that, yeah, you're going to pay more. Yeah. You might have, this factory won't leave, but you're going to pay more. It's just how it plays out. That's the deal. But that's more of a long tail. That doesn't happen. That won't happen during his presidency. It will happen later on, the long tail effect of it, right? It takes years for it to play out. I think
a lot of the bills are going to come due within midterm.
The Reagan policies, it took at least a decade before you really saw the effects of that.
He inherited a great economy that right now for the United States. They won't be feeling much for the next little while.
I agree.
But he has all the opportunity in the world to take that great economy and mess it up for them. But you know what? The Democrats deserve to lose the way they went about it. Biden should have gave up a lot earlier. Kamala Harris should have had to go through a primary. They had other options. She was a woman of color that had nothing to do with the fact that she was a California crown attorney, and she was terrible, right? And so they deserve to lose.
What's interesting is last time Trump was in power, where it affects us, I'll say it affects us, is that the ore that's coming out of Sudbury was tariffed. And we were shipping this iron ore and it was being tariffed. So how it affects us here in Northern Ontario, there's all these mining products and different things that that will be a direct impact to our economy in this area.
Just like the NAFTA agreement decimated the forest industry, because agreement itself and the dispute resolution years of court were used against Canadian companies. Now that's why we don't have them, because they got choked with tariffs.
It's interesting. That's the part that's kind of scary for us, is what happens. And then I scratch my head a little bit going,
that and a whole bunch of Democrats moving up here. Oh.
What happens we have a pretty vibrant auto industry that's completely connected to the United States. And I wonder, I'm just surprised that we can actually do it cheaper than the United States. It doesn't make any sense. To me.
I don't know all the reasons, but I think some of them might have to do with how we kind of funky with the energy pricing in each province, right? Quebec and Ontario, they subsidize electricity even still, and there's other things that we do. We pump a lot of money into these. Come here and work,
But it also, here's where it benefits us, right? Mm-hmm. Let's get some oil flowing, right? So pipelines and different things coming out of the oil sands, and so at the end of the day, from an economy standpoint, I don't think we're getting punched in the nose so much. I'm sure him and Trudeau aren't going to get along at all. I almost guarantee that.
Trudeau and his Liberals are in the same boat as the Democrats. They have passed the best state leadership as far as even Liberals go. Yeah. And they're not acting fast enough to replace them for the next election.
It will be, you just sense it, right, that the Liberals might be decimated in the next election.
It's scary.
In what's going to happen.
Only because of those swings, and we've seen them over the decades, when there's a big, we got to get them out and give the power to somebody else, and then they don't have a real plan, and then they start monkeying around with things, and then all of a sudden, we're going to have to fix up the mess.
I just see, like in our politics, it seems like it doesn't matter, any party goes 3 terms, it's like you can't go... I don't have the history in front of me here. It's probably very few that make it to 4 terms. Usually 2 is like kind of a sweet spot. You can make it through, maybe get into a minority government, something like that. But you can get wiped out like Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals did in Ontario. And then it takes decades to build
Well, if
back.
the NDP weren't so weak, Trudeau would have been out to not have the 3rd term anyway. So
it'd be interesting, I think, for our military here. I actually... like the idea that we take more of our GDP and invest back into our military that needs the money to.
Now we're going to have to. Yeah.
Now we're going to have to, and I actually think that's a good thing to make sure our military personnel get all the resources they need.
A Trump win in the United States is a win for the Canadian military.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Speaking of military, there's one quick clarification I have to make from our podcast with Bill Parfit, the Second World War veteran. There was a one spot where he was talking about 2 of the sorties were to move East Indian soldiers away from the Germans because they kept wanting to kill them after the war was over. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe he was talking about Punjabi Sikhs. But a comment under our YouTube video, a gentleman suggested that perhaps he was talking about the Gurkhas, which are a different East Indian soldiers. And so we're going to see exactly what he was talking about. But just Gurkhas, I misspoke and trying to figure out who Bill was talking about. But that's the only thing I can.
Right. So Johanne Brousseau is joining us. We're going to talk about Sweetman's Gardens. It's a bit of a hot spot right now. And so she has been doing her due diligence. Mm-hmm. How did we get here? How did all this take place? What's happened with Sweetman Gardens? But before we get there, sometimes you just need to chill out. And one of my favorite places to chill out is Casey's. Has been for many, many years. It used to be, remember Friday nights at Casey's? You couldn't get in. That was the place to be. That's where all the problems were solved over a couple of spilt beers, that's for sure. So make sure you get out to Casey's. They're one of our proud sponsors here. Drop in today. They're delicious appetizers. They have incredible drafts on tap. And then just simply unwind, take it easy, savor all their great flavors, and don't miss out on all the fun. This weekend, make sure you head out to Casey's. Good food, great drinks, and even better company. Thanks to Jan and all the staff there that are doing a great job.
Today we have what we would call a fly on the wall at City Council, Johanne Brousseau. a mayoral candidate in the last election that came pretty close to upsetting Peter Chirico. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You've been at the meetings and watching and taking notes. And today's topic is going to start off, or the discussion, is about the Sweetman Gardens, where a lot of people are up in arms about how the city approached clearing the road allowance that's near it. What do you think of how it was handled, and how do you think it should have been handled?
Well, I think first I'm going to explain the sequence of this approval,
cool.
And I think you may get a light bulb moment like I did.
Okay.
Okay, I hope that some listeners will. First of all, I just want to say that it's really great and fantastic that the City of North Bay records all their council and committee meetings, anything that happens at council chamber, because I used that as a reference a lot this morning to make my notes. There's a few years ago, the Ford government passed the More Homes, Build Them Faster Act, and so things were the size, the percentage of the house to the lot you were building on, everything changed. We could build more units on one lot, 3 of them, like as in your basement apartment, plus you could convert your garage or build another standalone unit in your backyard for another 1-bedroom apartment if that's what you wished. And they were, I'll put a lot of emphasis, which is great, on the infill and intensification, which meant in the north, we spread out our cities because we got lots of land. But there's a cost to that. We got more roads, more sidewalks, the sewers, the services between one home to the other are far in between. So it costs more to maintain and to install. So they wanted to say, let's take any empty lot, old house, renovate it, tear it down, build a new one. Let's try to build where there's already some services. So that made a lot of sense. This development, on 1060 McIntyre, is one of those things that it fits that criteria. So what usually happens is the developer, at this time will talk with the professionals to say, I'd like to build, here's my architect plans. We need to rezone because I want to put more units on this land. Then once they have all their paperwork together, they approach the city, which would be the planning department, and file their paperwork.
Just to add in right here, the developer for this particular lot is Councilor Gary Gardner.
It is Councilor Gary Wider and his wife,
and
Catherine
you used
Hunter.
Tulloch, I think, engineering to be?
Yes. And then I would say they're the most popular or busiest firm in North Bay that present to council.
Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to get that out there.
That's great, Dave.
Yeah.
So on May 21, on the agenda of the council meeting, there was a rezoning of 1060 McIntyre. And it was just asking what happens if it goes to council on the agenda, and it just asks to refer the matter to the Community Service Committee meeting, and that's it. Okay, so that was on the 21st of May, which would have been posted, the agenda would have been posted on the city website on May 15. So from May 15, you knew that 1060 McIntyre, something was going to happen there. Then July 9th, there was a community service special meeting. And usually a special meeting could be that it's not at 6:30. The meeting started at 5:30 because there was 2 matters that were going to take a long time. So usually from that date, the agenda was posted 6 work days prior to that. 6. So public knew about it. The report was attached to that correspondence number, so you could read the whole report from Peter Corello, pages and pages of it. Then what was said at that meeting, that on June 17th, the letters of notice were sent to all property owners that live within 120 meters of the said property. So you got a letter saying, this is what's going to happen. If you have concerns, you'd like to share your concerns, here's the city contact, here's his number, and any correspondence that is sent will be attached to the report and made public. There were no correspondence and no public concerns over the matter. At the same time,
Right before we go further,
Yeah.
that 120 meters.
Yes.
Would that include the property owners in behind garden?
Copeland, yeah.
The garden. Yeah. Okay.
yes, it should, because I'm 1.2 kilometers over when I drove it, and I live on Douglas. So yeah, there was a lot. It
Okay.
covers a radius of
Right.
quite a bit.
Just want to make that
yeah,
clear.
yeah. It should have.
Now, not that you can.
Now it's the property owner, not the person who rents. Okay, I believe it's going to be the person who the taxes,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So that could be also.
Because Sweetman Gardens is, and I've been over the years, I remember Hydro was going to build a substation there, and I was there at the public meeting, and there was very passionate people, and
Yes.
it never happened because engineering found a better spot. Wouldn't you think someone like when this was put out that people would have responded? Because people in this area are very sensitive to that.
My theory in a little bit. I'm coming up
Okay,
to that.
all right.
Okay, very
Sorry,
good question. Good question. So actually, on July 3rd, on the staff report and the agenda for the July 9th meeting was posted on the city website. So hopefully, there's a placard, like maybe 20 inches by 14 inches. That's bright yellow. That's posted on the property.
Yeah, I've seen
And
those.
says there will be a public meeting on such a date regarding the rezoning of, and then this is the contact if you have concerns or if you want to attend the meeting. You can attend the meeting and you don't have to register to present. At one point, the chair will say, any member of the public wish to share their concerns, and you just come on down and you can talk for however long you want. There's no time limit. Okay? So, but thinking of this street, you have Timmins Street, I'm coming down Timmins Street, I turn left on McIntyre. There are only 2 homes on that street. The one that will, one house, and then the next one will be demolished, and then the empty lot. So not too many people would walk that end of McIntyre just for an evening walk and look at the placard, right? It's not that. So it's not that visible. Bonus for some, and it's not that great for the citizens.
And
in
just
the
to
area.
further describe that area, so when we
Yeah.
go to McIntyre Street West from this direction,
Yes.
right, the trees that were cut down created a nice canopy, a trail to the back side of the Sweetman Gardens. But this particular sign would have been on the other side
Yes.
of the property were people were not as inclined to
Exactly,
use.
to continue crossing
Right.
onto McIntyre.
And the people that live on Copeland, adjacent to the property, they come in there from their backyard.
Exactly,
Right, okay.
and they wouldn't
So
see.
not
They
a lot of
wouldn't-
visibility.
Not visibility.
Okay.
Yeah. So the staff wrote a report on this proposal of the zoning, and that, like they specified at the public meeting that no correspondence was received. Later, I will come back to the description of the written report of Sweetman's Garden, which hopefully will flag a few residents to get involved. Okay. In the verbal report, they talked about the westerly lot, let's call that number 1, and the easternly lot, which would be more on this side of McIntyre, which we'll call number 2. So the number 1 lot has road access. And if you look, I sent on the report, and you look at the diagram, you have probably 2/3 of that front of that property has access to McIntyre. After that next lot, number 2 lot, has no access to McIntyre. And what Gary Gardner and professionals that he hired were recommending was that they use a roadway, the McIntyre roadway, as their driveway to be able to drive in and then turn 90 degrees into their parking spaces. The city was not in favor of that and said because that area of McIntyre is very narrow, for snow removal, the plow comes in and just pushes the snow against the guardrail right at the end of it. And once in a while, they'll come and remove that snow when it gets too much. So they can't have cars driving up and down, and would reduce the amount of snow they could push there. So, but they came out with 2 options. And the 2 options are, and I'll read theirs because it is that the options would be that McIntyre Street West would be extended to a municipal standard, the width of that street, so that the eastern property, the number 2 lot, would have road allowance, would pull up against McIntyre Street. Or the other option is that the developers amend the site plan, meaning remove some footprint of this building to allow their parking is at the front, and then to allow a drive-through from lot number 2 to come on in. The reason that as part of the rezoning, they wanted to merge lot 1 and lot 2 into one lot is because every lot must have access to the road. So by doing that, it's a smart move. By doing that, the bigger lot has access to, but I guess they were hoping to get this road allowance to be as their driveway, so to access their land. So we don't know that was the condition. The vote, they accepted the condition of staff. Okay, they approved it as per amended by staff. So that is what. So the city said, no, you need to find another solution. We're suggesting these two, but we don't really know what the developer has decided to do. Okay.
And if they do extend the road allowance so it gives the second lot road access,
yes,
who pays for that?
Sometimes it's a cost. It's a joint cost, depending on if the staff and the city realizes that other members of the community will benefit from that. If no other members of the community, then it's probably going to be 100% developer. Or 100% developer, and one day when if McIntyre's in the plan of opening up completely, they may decide right now, even though this is going to happen 10 years down the road, we'll share costs, and they decide what percentage which one pays.
Right.
And that's all decided in a contract. Usually fair to both. Fair to both. So that was my my understanding of probably why all that vegetation was cut off. I'm assuming.
Is in preparation for some eventual possible deal.
Eventual possible deal, or that, yes, so that part of that unit, that second unit with three dwellings in it, has direct access to McIntyre Street, to pull out from their parking space to McIntyre Street.
Right.
Okay. But that's just my assumption. Sometimes what happens with that.
That's your theory.
My theory.
Yeah, you can have a theory.
I can have a theory.
Yeah.
So one of the things.
But I think it'd be good to clarify that there's no specific plan for this on paper for the city to do anything yet.
I went and looked at the capital plan for 2024. There is nothing there of the jobs of infrastructure that they were going to extend McIntyre, connect McIntyre to be one fluent street.
So no plan was in place for this year?
No plan was in place, in the capital budget.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe it will be for 2025, and they're just prepping for 2025. We'll see.
Okay, right.
Okay, but for as of now.
Fair enough.
I go back to...
Because we're on Mac West, so
yes.
We're real close to everything that we're talking about here. If they did connect it at that end, what does it go to? Nipissing Street? Like, it doesn't go
Timmins.
Oh, Timmins Street.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, so why would you connect it? It's such a tiny little thing.
And I'm not sure. I don't know that area.
I think one of the theories is it is going to be easier for the snow plowing once it is extended. Because what they have to do now is they end at a dead end.
Yeah.
They have two dead ends to worry about.
And clear the snow.
Instead of having a clear way to get to another street.
And that makes sense, because at the end of the day, maybe there'll be cost savings 10 years later, because now they won't be removing snow. They'll just go right down.
I went and checked it out the other day, and I can see why they would do it. I would do it myself. Yeah. It's a mess.
It's a mess.
You got two dead ends and a bunch of trees.
Yeah.
I was surprised we didn't have a tent city inside there. Like that would where I would do a tent city.
Well, that was an area that we picked up a lot of needles when I was active at Clean Green Beautiful.
I imagine it was.
Ask Ralph Celentano. I'd send him on his. So you're an ex-ambulance guy. You can deal with that. And
Yeah, because it was very sort of secluded. It was you had the weed trees sort of canopy. It was protected, and it was a nice garden.
Yeah, and I have never. I'm not a garden person. Like I kill my impatience by August, but I don't know, and maybe you know, is Sweetman's garden and the land coming closer to you? Is it developable, or is it a ravine, or can they build houses on those lots that are remaining?
Oh, it's all developable.
It's all okay.
Oh, yeah.
So,
but I don't think they would ever touch it, right? Like because Sweetman Gardens was never touched, right? Am I clear?
Well, not
Oh,
really.
you got more to that?
I got more to that. Good lead up, Scott.
There we go.
So one of the things that you read the news,
Yeah.
and you wrote the news. When do you announce bad news? What day of the week?
Oh, we used to get this stuff on Fridays.
Yes, that's when you do a press, because less chances of it being read.
Mm-hmm. And all the politicians are in town handing out checks, so they get top billing.
Right. Okay. So thinking of that in mind, there are some municipalities that choose the controversial issues during the summer. It may be, some of them plan it that way because nobody listens or what's going on with city council in the summer, because there's only one meeting, usually one meeting in July, one meeting in August. So that is one theory, okay, that some municipalities may use.
People are on vacation. They might not attend a meeting, might not get notices, letters.
No, and
summertime's a good time to slip something through.
Yeah, it is.
One other sort of balancing thought on that, though, the city is in a rush to try to approve lots for housing for the provincial bonus and stuff like that. So there was a rush to get things approved.
And there's sometimes a rush to get it approved because they want to start doing it before the frost, put up the foundations or
just
before
to
the
balance
winter.
that thought, but it's a good theory.
Yeah, it's good theory. But the other thing that happened in this situation is that you had a committee meeting, and they were satisfied with all the information that was given, and said, yes, I'm going to be ready to make a decision, move it forward to council meetings so we can vote on the matter. They were all in favor of that. Now, usually, you have Stu and Jen in writing an article on it, or news, right? Report North Bay or whoever will write an article on it, and it might not happen till 2 weeks later. So it kind of informs the public that's missed out, that doesn't check up what's happening with the city meetings, right? On those posted on the website. So right away, so they agreed with that, and now we're then back to back after this community service meeting, committee meeting. We now had a council meeting, and we voted for this right away.
So it was approved by committee to go to council, and then council approved it the same night?
Within an hour and a half later.
Yeah. So there was no gap time.
There's no gap time for reactions from media to do their job, because media helps transparency, right? For some people to think, oh, I missed that. Oh, I am interested in that. I'm going to register and do a presentation at council, my 10-minute presentation. There's only 3 people that are allowed per meeting, but I'm going to register now and plan my meeting, my notes and my presentation. To present to council, you need to do it on the Friday by noon of the next council, which will be on the Tuesday. So like 30 work hours, City Hall work hours prior to that meeting. So you can register. You have an hour and a half notice.
You had no chance to get on a council agenda.
To get on the council agenda to present your point of view.
Founded in 1968, Voyager Aviation is a proud member of our community, providing worldwide aviation services from our headquarters right here in North Bay. If you're looking for a challenge, change, or want to expand your current career in aviation, Voyageur is hiring for a wide range of technical and non-technical roles, including pilots, aircraft maintenance personnel, corporate administration, machinists, supply chain professionals, and more. Be part of a workforce that is over 400 strong, supporting humanitarian, government, defense, and civil aviation operations around the world. For a career in aviation and beyond, learn more about open positions and career paths at voyav.com.
Just so I'm clear, is what you're saying what's been passed and what potentially could happen, that they will develop Sweetman Gardens?
No. It has nothing.
Okay.
It's just that the people that are interested in Sweetman's Garden and might have had a heads up and saying, hey, what are you going to do with the vegetation over here? Might have been concerned and could have raised concerns if they would have had, like if this would have come up at the August meeting, they would have had out a few weeks to think about it and get organized.
Right.
So that did not happen.
Because they would have heard some discussion about the road allowance possibly being extended.
Yes.
Which they know would have affected the canopy trail to get to the back end.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
So yes, council, they follow the procedures. They are transparent because they followed the rules. But with this situation, do we want to change the procedural bylaws to say once you have a committee meeting, you need X number, a buffer of 3-4 days before it goes to a council meeting to be approved? Then you would respect democracy more.
It would have
Right,
took
in a
somebody
way.
on council to, after the committee
Yes.
meeting, and when it came up at council, they would have had to have a notice of motion
Yes.
to delay it.
Delay
So
it till
a
the
notice of motion basically builds in a week or two, depending to the next week, because that notice has to be dealt with before you can continue on. In this case, Gary declared a conflict.
He was not present.
He wasn't present, and I think
Sarah was not present and Justine was not present.
if you're not present, do you have to declare?
No, because you're not voting
Okay.
on it. You're not discussing.
Right.
On
So Gary wasn't there, Sarah wasn't there,
and Justine was not there.
and Justine was not there. A quickie summer meeting.
Yes. It was.
But Chris Main was there. Chris Main knows.
Yeah.
Chris Main would be really attuned to
Yes.
this sort of thing, right?
Yes, but I guess if they didn't think of Sweetman's Garden, or they didn't think of, if no citizen contacted them and say, Chris, can you look into this? I'm afraid of this, or I can protect this. There's that too, right? The
Yeah, it
councillors-
might not have been obvious to him that there
not
was a
obvious,
potential
and
threat.
they're on holidays too, right? Like they're on semi-holiday
In
'cause,
holiday mode.
holiday mode and cottage mode.
Yeah, and
So-
every councillor has their own things going on in their life. I know Chris
Yeah.
has dealt with quite a few things as well.
Yeah.
The loss of his mother in the last year and his own health challenges. So
Right.
every councillor has those issues, so you can't really blame them for not, standing up and say, whoa.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And you're not
necessary.
100% all the time, right? On the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
there's
slipped
that.
through.
But just so because I need to ask a couple of
Yeah.
questions, because the tone and what we're talking about here is because you've been on council for
Yeah.
a number of years, and you're at all the meetings now.
Yeah. I have been to all meetings since December 2018.
Wow.
I was committed as a councillor, and if I wanted time off, I did it between meetings. It never interfered a meeting.
Do you tell Jamie Lowry that? Oh, that was just me being a jerk. It's just Jamie. I'm just being a jerk. Okay. Because I've made friends with Jamie. Because this seems like it could, let's just say, on paper, before it even gets to council, this could be a hot potato. Does someone go, hey, whoever, this could be a hot potato here? Are you saying that, yeah, it's a hot potato and here's how we're going to deal with it? We're going to put it through. That feels like that's a little bit of a conspiracy.
It could be coincidence, but I can tell you that there are municipalities that cannot operate. That's one of their strategic ways of putting the lid on it. Yeah. Putting the lid on something.
Well, I wouldn't want to be a councillor that lives in
no.
Pinewood and let this slip through.
So who's in Pinewood? That's
Sarah.
councillor? Sarah is?
Maggie.
Oh, okay. Oh, Maggie is too. Yeah, you're
And
right.
I'm not sure about
Justine?
Justine, where she lives.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like she's living in this area.
Yeah, it seemed there was a lot of signs during the elections in this area of hers, so I figured this
Yeah.
was her neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure either. Where
So
she
I'm sure
lives.
they're feeling it now,
But
a little bit.
going on something that you said, that, potentially you could put policy in place that would give this space so that people can address it. But what is the longer term effect with that? Like just in moving things forward and moving policy and all the stuff you have to deal with forward.
The one thing with that is you could have something that the mayor can call a special meeting 2 days later. 48 hours, the mayor can call a special meeting. So this was right on Monday. On Tuesday, allow the media to write articles, and you either run a meeting, and you would have to allow change. He's done that. Change the rules, suspend the rules to allow people to sign up for a presentation and give them a deadline.
I thought that at one point there was a, it might be going way back, but I thought at one point you couldn't do 3 readings in one meeting. That because everything's first reading, second reading, third reading before it's passed. I thought there was something like that.
They do them all. They can do.
Might be my imagination.
They used
there.
to be in the olden days.
Well, I might be going back to 30 years.
Yeah, a slower communication venue, like
I thought there was something, and there was a reason for it. I also know that there's a reason why they need to do it one night sometimes for emergency purposes.
Yes,
but I think for something like this, there shouldn't have been rushed in one night. I think that is part of the problem for sure.
Yeah, and remember the procedural bylaw. We changed it, I believe, in 2021. It improved, but there's always room for improvements and to go with the flow of what the community wants, correct? Now, and that would be up to a councillor or to come up with a motion, or up to citizens to approach councillors to come up with a motion to direct staff to review and amend the procedural bylaw and make sure this is included. And we had another one the other day for town hall meetings.
Yes.
Somebody's requesting that. So
they could review this as well.
Yeah.
Is that your suggestion? Is that they change the procedural bylaw to avoid something like this?
But I'm just looking at it from one lens. The clerk's department might say that won't work because of this.
Right.
So, but it could be at least be followed through and looked into.
Right.
But that when you want to be as transparent and as I call it, it's being democratic, having people have the time to talk or to speak. Then this would help that. I mean, they're just instances. It doesn't happen all the time, but. Now let's go back to Sweetman's garden. Okay, the one thing I want to read the description, and this is from the planning department. Let's see where I'm at. This is in the staff report. This is how he described Sweetman's garden, and that gave me. I was not aware. I was aware of it, but not much knowledge on it, because at that era of my life, I was working 60 to 90-hour weeks running my business, right? So I was just focused on being a business owner. So it says, immediate adjacent to the southeast of the properties is a parcel of city land. Informal gardens were built on this property by an adjacent neighbor. The gardens remain present on this adjacent property. It's city land. If you look, I followed through and I went to the Parks Master Plan. I was part of the council that approved it. I brought it forward as the chair of community service. I thought I'd read. It was good. Sweetman's Garden is not considered a park or a garden, or even in Section 4 of the Parks Master Plan, there's a section for parks and natural space networks. Like, I believe if you want Sweetman's Garden to be protected, I believe that group needs to protect it on paper than just a piece of city land.
Right. So you think
Right?
it needs to be designated specifically in the parks
in
as
the park,
a
as a park, or so then it cannot be sold.
hence where Kennedy Park over in Pinewood area
exactly
was a long time ago dedicated.
Yes.
I would think, because I know some of the players, I'll say players, some of the people that are passionate about Sweetman Gardens are highly vocal, highly active, politically active. I'm shocked that they've never gone down that route to create a park or make it parkland, or have they attempted?
No, I don't know, but I mean, I know that they won a victory, right? When the substation, the hydro substation, didn't happen then, and then after that, they probably thought, okay, job's done, work is done. But now maybe it is, but they need to look at the way this was read or was written by the staff. It's obviously not a designated park; it's just a piece of city land. Whereas all the other parks are designated parks in the Parks Master Plan, will always stay as parks. So that might be a future project for Sweetman's Garden.
We're not far from wrapping it up, and I have one thing, and Scott does as well. But to play devil's advocate, well, if the city designates it as a valued asset, it would be required to find a way to keep it up, where it'd have to be a volunteer committee like the Heritage Gardeners, right? It'd be one more thing to take care of and invest in. Is it really in a place that the community benefits from that, where we have waterfront park, we have a lot of assets that are, on the plate already? Is it valuable enough?
That the neighborhood will answer that.
Community.
That neighborhood will answer that.
Yeah.
Not right. That's the because
it's not for me to say either. I might have an opinion, but
like I said, I can go to the waterfront and walk and look at those gardens.
Yeah.
I have never been to Sweetman's, but I will be just from curiosity next spring.
Yeah.
I have gone through Kennedy Park, and I love it with my dog.
I know a lot of people that do go there and
Yeah.
love it, and they take photos, and it's a beautiful thing to them. So I know it's valuable to them.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, as a city, like,
Yes,
you
I
have
understand
to
that.
do something or get off.
Yeah.
Make room for development.
But remember that at the top is the community, then the council, then the staff.
Yeah.
So if the community decides and wants to protect that area, then they need to start working with staff on how they could do that.
If I was a developer and putting 2 triplexes on a lot,
Yes.
I'd want that park protected
Sure.
so there wouldn't be more houses beside it, but the ones that
actually,
value.
good idea.
make more value.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it'd be easy to sell those units when you say there's a flower garden, Sweetman Garden next door.
That's protected under.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joanne, tell me about your passion for attending these meetings. And what your plan is for the future.
I ran for council in 2018. In my mind, it was like the pinnacle of my volunteer career that I started as a 14-year-old person in North Bay. Okay, the top best job you could have as a volunteer was to be a city councilor. I fell in love with that. I was putting in 20 hours a week, dedicating 20 hours a week to council matters. I was retired or semi-retired, and I have lots of flexible time. And I really enjoyed that. I love helping people. It's part of that volunteerism, right, that was developed over the years. I ran for mayor, but I want to stay current, and I wanted to make sure that the things that were started on my term are accomplished and not. And like, it was nice to go to the pump track and the skateboard park, because that was my council that jumped on the bandwagon. They were so hot for it. And I know as a retailer, when somebody wants to buy something, you sell it to them right away. You don't wait 2 months, because they'll go buy something else.
Right.
They'll move on to the next project. So I seem to have helped capture that moment to make it happen. So I was so proud of that moment, that the next council followed through with it. I am still interested in politics, and I will be coming back. What role? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I will be running. I'm definitely coming back in 2026.
I have to say, first of all, thank you for your community service. Thank you for dedicating your time to this. Thank you for bringing the issues forward. I wasn't happy with where they put the basketball court and that there.
I was going to say that it's her fault.
No, but wait. But when they were completed, and you've been over there and you took some pictures, actually of Gary Gardner, I think. Actually,
he sent that photo in there.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
I went, that's fantastic. So even though I maybe guessed the location, I went, that's fantastic.
I'd like to correct Dave.
Sure.
He says it's my fault. I can tell you, as my role as a councilor, I govern. I told staff, yes, let's proceed with this basketball court. But it's up to staff in operations to decide the exact location.
Where it goes.
I wrote the menu. I'm not going to cook and buy the groceries. Staff does that, right? So you have to, it's hard to, sometimes you want to get your nose into everything.
Yeah.
And my best teacher for that was Norm at the case.
Yeah.
Who say, nose in, Joanne, hands out. And he would remind his board lots of times.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned that one really well.
So the buck starts with you. It doesn't end.
No. Yeah.
The last thing I want to say about you, Joanne, is that when you were running for mayor, even before that, when you ran for council, there was a couple of people that approached me and said, she doesn't really have business experience. She was selling sewing machines, right?
I was selling a dream.
So, but wait. What I want to say to that is my response to when people said that to me, because it goes back in my radio days, because I remember being at your shop and selling, promoting people to come down and I'm thinking, sewing machines. These machines you don't sew, right, Dave? I'm assuming?
Hand sew.
Hand sew? Oh, good for you. These machines are like $50,000. Like, they're more expensive. You see and I love John C. Hopper. It's like, but it's John C. Hopper. He sells fancy cars and all this stuff. The sewing machines, most of them were more expensive than cars. And Joanne was like one of the top dealers in the country, if not the top dealer in the country. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this woman was like one of the best salesperson that was selling these machines that were more expensive than vehicles that you were seeing on the lot. I said, give that woman some credit about what she does, the business she's built. She's a business person.
Yeah, 23 years. I started with $1,000 and started my business.
Yeah.
And I built and built and built. In 2001, I was recognized as the top small dealer in the world.
In the world?
In the world. What they guided, okay? So what they gauged it on was the average small dealer sold 1.5, maybe $1.50 per person, per population base that we bought from that supplier. Mm-hmm. There are more suppliers. I was $5 and something because I did after sales and I educated and I promoted and I taught, and it was all natural because I'm passionate about sewing. So I sold the dream. I learned later on in life we became a well-being store. Mm-hmm. People that had problems at home they were no longer Mrs. So-and-so, they were Susan the sewer. Mm-hmm. They were welcomed into the store, and they were with a whole bunch of other ladies, and they just had fun.
You come across, when you meet you for the first time, there's this beautiful, gentle kind of approach that you have, but behind that facade, there's this fierce businesswoman that knows her stuff.
I learned it as I went. And I can tell you the one thing, the best thing I did was to take on the dealership with Husqvarna because they were behind the dealer educating us. Every time I go to convention, I only took business courses. Did not take sewing courses because I could just do it read the project and do it in North Bay. And at the end, I convinced Canada, the president of Canada, to give us a business coach because in the States they had a sales rep, but they also had a business coach. And she would come in at the beginning of the year and say, Joanne, show me what you're going to do this year. Okay, these are the products you're going to sell. This is what you did last year. Can you add? But how are you going to sell them? Mm-hmm. With events, with ads, with sales. So the whole package was developed in that January, and then you just executed it.
Well, you got 30 seconds to do a pitch to commit him to the Tour de Trout there next year.
Yes, we'd be more than happy to
That's
have
the
you.
other part that people don't know about Johanne,
Yes,
right?
that's part of her
You're a
volunteer
swimming
responsibility.
coach.
Yeah.
I've been involved in swimming. I learned to swim at the Y when I was 11. I did not put my face in the water because we were 7 houses from the Y. That's how I could walk to the Y. So my mom said, yes, you can join. And I kept up swimming. I moved up with Royal Life, examining lifeguards, teaching teachers how to teach. I got 2 Governor General Awards from it. I then moved on to scuba diving and started to teach scuba for about 15 years for the club. All money went to the club. I got an award from that too, from the Diving Association. Then I went back. I stopped that because I was too busy with the business, but I went back to swimming for myself. And I've always had a love.
He distracted you from committing him to Tour de
Oh,
Trail.
yeah, sorry. And actually, yes, you should come because we have a great social after you come out of the water. We have fun. It's safe. We have kayakers and canoeists.
Mm-hmm.
We swim from A to B, nice and easy. The dock hosts are really happy to have you leave their docks or arrive at their docks.
And
when
you're
you're
going
done.
to be in great shape for your triathlon.
Right.
yeah.
I think you've coached my nephew Lau.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yes.
That is one of my proteges that I always get one of those per year. Maybe
Yeah.
you will be the one this year.
If I could swim with Lau, that would be a
You know
real
what?
gift.
Lau did not know how to swim very well. Couldn't breathe well. And
You're so close to getting the hook in and finishing the deal.
He committed.
He's
and
a
he
master.
he was there almost every day.
Finish this hill.
When
Finish this hill.
my session was finished, he would stay for the last half hour as a lane swimming.
Yeah.
And kept it up and kept it up. Yeah, he's fantastic.
He
so
is.
if Lau can do it, you can do it too.
I'm going to talk to Lau this weekend.
Yes.
Or he delayed.
So this year it's starting sooner. We're starting in January.
Okay.
And so you need to like the the Tour of the Trout 2024 Facebook group.
I will do that.
You'd start by doing that. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yes, I'm going to come and drag
in the water
you from
anyways.
here.
One toe's
All
in
right.
the water.
Now that I know you're Lau's uncle,
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Joanne, for coming in the
you're welcome.
studio.
Thank you.
I've wanted to have you in as a guest for a while, and I'm glad this issue came up so you can help us understand a little bit of the mechanics of different decision making and a potential change to the procedural bylaws so that things aren't passed in one night.
Yes, and just remember, they don't need to be changed, but it's up to the community to speak up and make this happen.
Been another Echo Essentials podcast,
I'm Scott Clark.
and I'm Dave Dale. Thanks for viewing, comment, and share. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Natasha Laframboise, sales representative with the Laframboise team at Realty Executives Local Group Inc. Brokerage. We are a local real estate team here in North Bay. Our team of sales representatives, Matt Laframboise, Phil Seguin, and Adam Negro, are ready to help you through the buying and selling experience. We have been providing service to the North Bay and area community for over 17 years. Our goal is to provide knowledge, support, and guidance in order to prepare your home for sale, bring it to market using multiple selling strategies, and get it sold. As a home buyer, we have 2 buyer's agents ready to help you find your home sweet home. If you'd like to know more, check us out on our website, laframboiseteam.ca. We are always happy to help.